Good. All right. So we might have a small crowd today, which is just fine. Um, we'll make adjustments. I planned this for a bigger crowd, um, but it should work just fine with the number we have. Okay. So all of the materials we'll be using today, that is the slides, the templates, those will all be made available to you. This activity is redeveloped for an online format. And this format also assumes that you have a copy of the printed activity from the Project Wild Terrestrial Guide, or the Project Wild K through 12 guide. And the version we're using is the 4th edition that was first published in 2018, right? So it looks like this. If you can see the shared screen once again, if you have an older copy of Project Wild, this activity will still make sense and you'll still have access to the student pages. And I think you'll learn enough to where you could still use this activity. But if you want, for example, the updated background information and the detailed updated procedures, you'll want to get the new edition, which means you may want to go back to Project Wild training by contacting your state Project Wild coordinator. The first page of the activity you can see on the right side of the screen here. This activity comes in 2 parts. The A part that we call the nut bowl activity, and the B part, which is an activity where students analyze first-person narratives to reflect the lifestyles of various time periods. And the first part, part A, some of you may recognize it if you've done a similar activity from Population Connection. The original activity came from this fantastic resource, which most people do not know about, but it's here at the bottom. It's called Thinking Globally and Acting Locally, Environmental Education Teaching Activities. And it was developed in the early 1980s by folks at University of Michigan. And you may recognize some of the names there. And so let's get started here. So,
hey, Mark, just to clarify, folks don't need to have the copy of the activity with them right now. Is that correct?
Nope, good question.
Okay, thank you.
And also, Kelly, good modeling for if you have questions, feel free to unmute your microphone, raise your hand, put it in the chat box. It's hard for me to present and monitor the chat, but I know, Kelly, I don't even have to ask you. I know you'll jump in and you're really good at it. But if you see something in the chat that someone else commented on, whether you're Kelly or anyone else, and you want to stop me, that's fine too. Okay, so here's our nut bowl. And in this activity, this activity, our nut bowl can look like this, right? If we're sitting around a table doing this simulation, or in our case, our nut bowl is going to look like this. So if you can see the shared screen, and for those of you who have your cameras on, thumbs up if you can see the shared screen, right? A bunch of dots across the screen. Okay. So here I have a nut bowl of 100 pieces, 100 tokens. In fact, one of the resources I'll share later is a template that I'm calling the Project Wild Token Library. And it's a bunch of slides with different numbers of tokens that can be copied and pasted for various kinds of simulations. I pulled this one from the 100 slide. And we're going to use it this way. We're going to pick a number of tokens to start using this formula. And we start with the number of participants we have, and we multiply that number by 2.5. Okay, and that's specific to this activity, sustainability, then now later. If you're doing a different activity, for example, how many bears, it might be a different formula altogether. So we have 11 participants. So 11 times 2.5 is
27.5.
Okay, let's round up to 28.
But if you don't include yourself, then it would just be 25.
Let's go with 25. I'm not going to include myself.
Okay.
All right. So if we had 40 participants, which happens to be the number of people that registered for this, we would have 100 tokens, right? Okay, and here's another example, 31 participants, 78 tokens. All right, I'm going to leave these slides in, so if you use this, this PowerPoint or this Google slide presentation later, you can refresh your memory on how that works. Okay, here are the rules. Are you ready? So on the shared screen, and I'm going to read them aloud. These tokens belong to all of you. When we begin, the music will be played. And in our case, the music will be me saying, okay, start and stop. But, you can use music. And if you're really good with Zoom, you can even play it from your computer. While the music plays, everybody may take tokens from the center pile. You may not return tokens to the pile once you have removed them. However, you may trade in the 10 tokens for one piece of your special snack. When the music stops playing, I will double the number of tokens that are left in the center. Then we will continue the activity with another round. The maximum number of tokens that the center pile can hold is what you see at the beginning of this activity, which in our case will be 25. Okay, so our center pile can only hold 25 tokens at the most. The pile cannot hold more than that. You may not speak or otherwise communicate with classmates during the activity. Are there any questions about the rules? Okay, now you might be wondering, well, how do I take these tokens? Well, I'm going to demonstrate that. But before I do, I want to make sure everybody has access to this Google slide presentation. This is the same one I asked you to open up earlier. And now I'm going to open it on the shared screen here, I think. Okay, hold on. Okay, now I'm going to change my share screen so you can see. So we're looking at the same one, and I think actually we already are perhaps, but show me with nodding heads. You probably, if all's going well, you can actually see this presentation in two places, on the Zoom shared screen window as well as on your separate window of Google Slides, right?
Yes.
And if you're new to either Zoom or you're sharing Google Slides, I know it can be confusing. But, okay, so in the shared window, you cannot interact with that, right? On the shared slide, in a moment, you will be able to. And so if you look at the Zoom shared window for a moment, can you see my cursor? Okay, I'm going up to the share at the top, and I'm going to change this. So right now I have anyone with this link can edit, or it says anyone with this link is a viewer, right? So I'm going to change that to anyone can edit. All right. So please don't sabotage the slide presentation and delete everything. If you do, I have a backup, but it would put us way back, right? And is this a big concern for teachers teaching kids? Yes, like using these shared presentations, it might not work for every group of students, or educators might have to break up students into small groups or find ways to monitor them, because a lot of what we do with Google Apps, sometimes it's anonymous when we add content or delete content. All right, so right now everybody can edit this, and so I'm going to move on to the second slide here, and this is going to be our field where I put in the tokens, right? All of these names here on the left are the last names of the people that registered. I think we'll disregard this because we have so few people. But at least you can see how I organized it. I was going to have these different teams, pink, peach, green, etc., and 4 people per team based on the number of people that registered. I'm gonna do this where we don't break out into groups, but just as one large class activity. But it could be done with breakout rooms if you had multiple activity leaders. I'm going to be leading this activity in the future, and if anyone is interested in working with me to facilitate that in breakout rooms where you're leading the activity with others, I would be very happy to work with you and meet with you separately and practice it with you. If you want to like add it to your bag of tricks as a, for example, an online learning instructor or a project one facilitator, let me know. My email address will be included in the last slide. Okay, so for now I'm going to take this part out. Okay, and I'm going to our third slide here. Again, we're not going to need this part. Actually, let me go back. I'm going to leave that. Oops. That in the second slide, I'm going to leave that in so you can see it again later if you want to see how I did it. But I'm going to take it out on the third slide. This is our nut bowl, and we're going to reduce this to 25. Better yet, let me just do it the fast way. I'm going to change the share screen here. Well, it did it automatically, I think. You can see I'm now in this thing called the token bank. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna go down to the slide that has a 25 on it. I'm gonna control copy this slide.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
We have 12 participants, not including yourself now, which would be 30. I don't know if you want to go with 30 or if 25 still works.
We can do 30. Okay. Notice that I don't have a slide for 30, right? I didn't make a slide for every number. So I'm going to show you how to add in or subtract slides. So I'm going to pick the slide that's closest to that number, and that's 25. I'm going to go back to my nut bowl slide here, and I'm going to drop in a new slide, or I'm going to actually just Control V, paste, right? Okay, there's my 25. So I need to add 5 more, right? So I'm going to pick 1. And I'm holding down the control button when I click on these. 2, 3, 4, 5. Control C, and then Control V for paste. And then I'm gonna, let me try that again. Let me try it down here on these. 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay, Control C for copy, Control V for paste. And then I'm gonna grab, if I can grab that. Okay, didn't get it. What happened is I just pasted more tokens on top of old ones, which can cause problems later. So bear with me here. Let's see. Let's try these. Okay. Okay, I have a better way. Here's one. I'm going to pick one, Control copy and paste. There it is. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, that's the preferred method. Just copy and paste one at a time, or delete one at a time when you're using these tokens, because otherwise they just start pasting on top of each other. In Google Slides, when you do copy paste, it will automatically paste to the bottom and to the right of whatever it is you're copying and pasting. And so that's why these tokens are oriented this way. This was the default orientation that Google provided, right? And so if I go back to some of these tokens, if I take this one and drag it over here, well, look, there's already one there. That's because I accidentally pasted one over, right? So I'm going to delete that one. And I probably did the same up here. Oh, that one didn't have an extra one. Well, I don't know how many tokens I have now. Let's see, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I don't need that one. And then 10 here, right? They don't need to be lined up. They can be scattered. There's 2 different colors or shades. It's just for the That's just for the sake of being able to see quickly count them, right? They don't, in this activity, they don't have any special meaning, any hidden values. Okay, so now we're going to start, and I'm just going to go using the order that you're in on my screen. I'm going to start, let's try from the bottom up with Kelly. And Kelly, and by the way, if anyone cannot talk, you can tell me how many tokens you want taken for you. Okay, Kelly, now you can take as many tokens as you want.
Kelly Scott or Kelly Reynolds?
Kelly Scott.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's go with 3.
Okay. So Kelly, I'm going to, and you could do this yourself, but I'm going to do it for you. And maybe on the second round, I'll let people try it themselves. But for the first round, I'll do it. And I'm going to make these. I'm going to use the bucket. Yeah. Oops. 1. You said 3. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm going to the little paint icon at the top, and I'm going to make your tokens red. Okay. So Kelly Scott, remember that you're red.
Perfect.
Okay. Next up, Nancy, how many tokens would you like to take? And you can have as many as you want. Remember, if you take 10, you get to have one of your snack pieces. You can trade it in for a snack. And Nancy, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can either type in the chat or turn off your microphone to let us know. Nancy, we'll come back to you because we can't hear you. Barb Geiger, how many would you like?
I would like 2.
Okay. And Barb, I'm going to make your tokens blue. Jenny, how many would you like?
5. Jenny
5.
wants 5.
Okay, thank you. Jenny, I'm going to make yours purple. Joe, how many would you like? 7. All right. Kim, how about you? 4. Kim, oops, yours are going to be yellow. All right. Abby.
I'll take 2.
Abby, yours are going to be orange. Rhonda, how many would you like?
5, please.
And Abby, yours will be green. Sorry, Rhonda, yours will be green. Is that right? I said those are for you. Is that right, Rhonda?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I got mixed up with my list of folks here. And Jeffrey Baker, how about you?
I will take 2.
All right. And Jeffrey, you will be maroon or brown. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, we already have a brown. Okay. You know what? I'm going to leave yours as black. There we go. Okay. So those of you who got tokens, make a note of how many tokens you got. Those are in your pocket to use later. And Jeffrey Sparks, Kelly Reynolds, Molly, sorry, no tokens for you. Okay, next round. So one of the rules of this is you can't talk. In this, we've adapted that so you can tell me how many tokens you can take. Let's try this again, and I'm gonna let you access the shared screen, we're going to add another slide in using, again, the 25 tokens. So I'm going to copy this from the token bank, and I'm going to switch over. I have the tabs at the top of my screen. I'm going to put in a new slide. Okay. All right, let's start going the opposite direction this time. Molly, would you like to select some tokens?
10, please.
Okay, would you like me to do that, or would you like to try it yourself? Either way, it's fine by me. You're muted. Still muted.
Yep.
There we go.
All right. It's not, no, I can't get it to work.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to do it here. And you said 2?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay. Oops. Let's go back.
I want to see
think-
what happens.
I think I just deleted my
Oops.
blank slide. Let me go back and recopy this. So copy, paste it here. Okay. So thumbs up if you can see the shared screen where it says 25 slides. All right. Okay, so 10 for
Molly.
Molly. Ah. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to demonstrate another way you can select the tokens, and this time we'll just delete them. I think I already deleted one of them. Okay, so 10 are gone, right? Molly, just make a note that you have 10 tokens in your pocket. Kelly Reynolds, how many?
I'd like 3.
Okay. Kelly, can you delete them, or can you delete them directly?
Yes.
Okay. No, so Kelly, what she's doing is she's making sure she's not trying to work from the shared Zoom screen, but she's going to that other window that she has open in a separate browser where she can access the Google slide presentation directly. And you just deleted 3. Okay. Jeffrey Baker, how about you?
I will take 5.
Okay. It's okay if I delete them for you? Or would you prefer to do it yourself? You're muted, so.
Go ahead. You can do
Okay.
it.
All right. And Rhonda.
I have a question. Were we not starting with 30 this time?
Oh. So yes and no. We were supposed to start with 30 and we did not. My error. Good question.
Okay, just clarifying.
Can you imagine how polite you all are compared to, say, a group of 5th graders? Okay.
I'll take 5, please.
Okay. All right. And Jeffrey Sparks. Oh, and by the way, Rhonda, Jeffrey Baker, Kelly, write down how many you have in your pocket. Jeffrey Sparks, how many would you like? Jeffrey, I'm not hearing you. You're muted. And you can hold up your hand. Oh, you took them. Okay. Even better. All right. Still muted. At least I can't hear you, but okay. So you have 2 more in your pocket. So Abby, Kim, Joe, Jenny, Barb, Nancy, Kelly, Scott. Sorry, no tokens for you this time. Now, I'm going to double the tokens that were left over. We just finished a round, right? The music never stopped. I just let it run out to the end. I can't double any tokens here because there's none left, right? So we're gonna play another round here. This time around, we're going to start with 30. So, and I'm gonna start and stop the music, and we'll try doubling the tokens here. Okay. All right. So instead of 25, we're gonna start with 30, and I'm gonna copy 1 5 times. So Control C, then Control V. 1 2 3 4 5. We now have 30 tokens. We're going to start at the other end. The music is starting. Okay, Kelly Scott, you get to go first. How many tokens would you like?
7.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
Okay, and Kelly, would you like me to delete those for you, or would you like to delete them yourself?
Yes, please go ahead and delete.
If you delete tokens and it looks like some of them didn't delete, it's because some got pasted over with multiple tokens. That problem I was having earlier. So it's something that's good to watch for as you're deleting tokens. Nancy, you're up next. How many tokens would you like? You can type it in the chat or unmute yourself. No? Okay, 3. Okay. All right. All right. We have Barb. How many?
2.
Okay, so the music just stopped and we have tokens left over. So Barb and Kelly, make a note of how many tokens you have in your pocket now or how many to add in. So we have 18 tokens left. So I'm going to double that to 36. So I'm going to pick this bottom token on the bottom right, and I'm going to paste it 18 times. Yeah, these are hard. There's a way to do this, and it might be that I have to group them together before I can move them together, but I can also drag them so they're not off the screen and so everybody can see them. Okay. All right, Jenny, how many tokens? 5. Okay. Joe, how many tokens? 1. Oh, you'll try to delete. Okay, very good. And I'm watching to see if I see one get deleted. I don't see it yet. Oh, there it goes. All right. Kim, how about you? Kim?
She's deleting, it looks like.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I hope you're done deleting. So I'm going to move on. Abby. Okay. And it looks like Abby's deleting too. And Jeffrey Sparks, how many would you like? I see Abby, yes, you took 5. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, 5 for Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, I'm gonna delete these unless you want to jump in. And we can tell if you jump in to delete them because we can see, you know, the tokens that you select, they get highlighted if you look closely. All right, Rhonda, you're up. And Rhonda, did you already
I
delete?
deleted 2.
Okay. I noticed you and Jeffrey Baker happen to be on the same beach.
I noticed
Okay,
that earlier.
Jeffrey, you're up. And Jeffrey, did you are you working
I'll
on
take
deleting?
3. I'm not able to delete
Uh,
these for some reason. I'll take 3.
okay, okay, I'm going to delete those, and the music just stopped. We have 8, so I'm going to copy. I'm going to double that, right, for the next round. And move this one up here. And I'm going to do Control C again. Okay, so we should have 16 now. All right, now this time, let's talk about a strategy here. How many of you, show me with your hands or text in, how many of you have, well, text in the chat box, how many tokens you have in your pocket. Kelly Reynolds 3, Rhonda 12, Jeffrey Sparks or Jeffrey Amon, Jenny Amon 10, Rhonda has 12, Jeffrey Sparks has 7, and not just from this round, but from all the rounds of all that you collected that you have in your pocket. Jeffrey Baker has 10, Kim has 12, Molly has 10. All right. And then Kelly Scott has 10. Abby Johnson has 7. Okay, so some of you can now trade in your tokens for a snack, right? You can perhaps imagine sitting around a table with maybe younger students or rowdy teachers, where you have a bowl of Skittles that you're passing out, or M&Ms or popcorn, whatever it is, and that you're trading in your tokens for these. That can be a time-consuming part of doing the activity when you're doing it live in person, right? So you have to build in time for that. Now, let's talk about a strategy. What do you think? Is this, you all were, it was interesting that nobody took all the tokens. Why not? I mean, last time I did this activity, there were some people that right off the bat, they took all the tokens, right? Who wants to tell me, why didn't you take all the tokens?
My goal was to try to get 10 so I can get a snack.
Okay.
Not all
But
at one time.
if you took 20 tokens, you could get 2 snacks. Is it because you weren't very hungry?
Sure.
Or
I'm
did,
not that hungry today.
okay, does it, anybody,
Close to this.
okay.
Jeffrey Baker said we're the nice group.
Okay, why is it nice not to take all the tokens? This is getting very elementary, right? Why is that nice? Guilty feeling about taking from others, right? So show me with your thumbs or your voices. Is this a value that we have in our community here to share these things with each other and not hog them all for ourselves, right? Okay, so what can we do with this activity going forward to try to be fair? How can we make this activity even more fair? I said before, don't talk with each other, but now I'm encouraging you. I'm asking you to talk with each other. Turn off your microphones, type in the chat. What are some strategies we could do? We could perhaps agree on about how many tokens we take.
Yeah, like
Knowing that whatever's left at the end will double.
Jenny says distribute evenly among the group, and Joe says everyone takes minimum necessary to meet their needs.
Okay.
Kelly agrees.
All right. All right. I wonder what the most tokens in it, if everybody took the same amount of tokens, if we're starting with 30 tokens, if everybody took the same amount of tokens, and everybody had a chance to take tokens, would we have enough tokens in the end to, double it and then keep it going, right? I mean, if we have 30 tokens and everybody takes 5, well, that's not going to work, right? What is the ideal number, and how do we decide that, right? Not necessarily easy questions to answer. Okay, so this nut bowl activity, what is it like in real life? What are these tokens similar to?
Resource.
Barb,
Baker says resources.
and Barb pointed out that we all take a lot of resources in real life.
Okay. And I see Bob Geiger also said be sustainable over time. So everybody take 2. Okay, that could be a good strategy, right? Or a strategy perhaps to sustain the resource. Okay, so these resources, if there's some left at the end of the round, they renew, right? And so we call that a renewable resource. Can someone give me an example of another kind of renewable resource? Trees, timber, okay, right? Right, so if we are careful with how we harvest trees, we can grow more, right? Other renewable resources, resources that will regenerate themselves if they're not depleted to too great of an extent. Seafood, good, okay. The sun, okay. What about resources that are not renewable? Resources that if depleted, they cannot regenerate in time for people to be able to use them to meet their needs. Okay, most of the fossil fuels, oil, okay, petroleum, okay, water. So water can be, in some cases, non-renewable, right? Like if we're talking about water in an aquifer, for example, it might not regenerate fast enough to sustain the aquifer for others to use in the future. Okay, metal, right? Metal isn't going to be created quickly enough by Earth processes to where we can use it up and have more, right? Okay. And comment from Jeffrey Baker: I tell students water is renewable, but may become unusable if polluted. Okay, good point. All right. Okay, so we're wrapping up the part A of this activity. I'm going to switch over to this slide, and I think Kelly, can you see the shared slide? It switched back to the main presentation. Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. And this is where we left off. Okay. So I'm checking my notes at the bottom, make sure I covered everything. And I'll leave these notes in if you want to see them later for your own use. How is this simulation of the use of renewable resources similar or unlike real life? What's one way it's similar? I'll ask the question in a different way. What happened during the simulation where we were using the renewable resource and the outcome was something similar to what has happened in real life with the use of renewable resources?
You know, Mark, this is, I think, maybe an answer to your first question, but I think because we're all in a group here and it's a small group and you're using our names and we're kind of aware, oh, well, Rhonda's, if I take 7, I know that Rhonda's coming up next in the line and she won't be able to take as many. So I think that kind of awareness of the other group members maybe caused us to be more conscientious.
Okay, so back to my question, like how is this similar or dissimilar to real life use of natural resources. Can anyone think of an example where people or groups of people, nations, have shown that they're being conscientious, that they're making a point to share and, either among other people or future people? What would be an example of us making sure we're having natural resources, a natural resource available for a future generation?
I just recently saw like a real world example. Like they're I guess in South Africa, there is a shortage of water, so they have like I, I want to say let's say 25 gallons. I know that's too much, but each person for the week, that's how many gallons of water they have. So they strictly monitor residents as well as people that are coming to public areas to get water. So and if they go below a certain amount in their reservoir, then there's some actions that will happen. So that this could definitely be a similar case. Hey, we don't have enough water and we've run out of water.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess you could kind of give that scenario. Hey, everybody has to be mindful of what we use and do around to see if people are truly, don't take. And if there was some anonymity around how much I was taking, you could see we could kind of really reveal whether or not, am I going to take all of it because I'm greedy?
Right. Okay. Good. All right. What about the question of how is this simulation different than what happens in real life? And you could think of, really hundreds of different ways to answer this question. But the point of the question really is to get you to think about this activity as a model for what happens in real life. Okay, so this is a model of a phenomena of human use of natural resources.
Joe
And
says we can't copy and paste new resources. And
right.
Barb said in real life, typically overuse until it's a scarce commodity.
Okay, good. Okay, two good examples of how this is different. Okay, so these would be good questions to ask students of any age, and for an assignment after an online synchronous instruction, before our next session, answer this question, right? But as part of a best practice, anytime you do a model or simulation, the recommendation is to look at how the model is similar or not similar to real life. Okay, so in the second part of this activity, and I wasn't planning really for us to be able to have time to do the second part of this activity. It's really two activities that take more time, right? But I went ahead and put it in. And I think probably what I'm going to do for future online sessions for this activity is actually offer the second part as a standalone. So we'll have part A and part B. And so when I offer part B, you may want to take that, you may want to attend that. So if you watch the announcements for the Wild Learning Lab, watch for Sustainability Part B, but you will get the overview now. And Part B was developed for the 2018 edition of Project Wild, and it's more similar to the previous version of sustainability, the older version of the Project Wild activity, sustainability, then now later, but it still has its differences for sure. And in Part B, we're looking at these narratives. Each one is a letter, or in one case, an email, written by a student to their grandmother once in the year 1900 and in the year 1960 and in the year 2019. And in this part of the activity, students read these 3 scenarios. And how I have done it is I'll have one person read each scenario out loud to the whole class. You know, it could also be done as homework, or it could be done prior to the session, but you find a way to read and discuss each scenario, and each one takes about 2 minutes to read. And then, and these 3 student pages are available, like all student pages in Project Wild activities, they're available online. These URLs will take you directly to those links. You don't need to go to those links now, but that's where they are. And then we will start pasting in or typing in this shared document examples of that come up in the readings of how resources or let me see how it's stated here, how water use, transportation, energy, and food or drink are used in these different time periods. So I'm going to open up a new screen here and take a closer look at this slide. Okay, so you can see now the shared slide, the charting sustainability through time Google Sheet, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if we were all logged into this during the first reading, as someone's reading the 1900 letter, the letter from the year 1900, we would each start typing in, everybody would pick a cell and start typing in any observations they've made of human practices, behaviors, or choices from the reading that reflect water use, transportation, energy, or food or drink. So for example, in the first one, if the student is going to school that morning, you know, in a buggy pulled by a horse, you could write that down in transportation, right? Okay, so in the Project Wild Guide, it's a much smaller student table in the student page, and it's intended for, you know, perhaps one student to fill out if the educator prints off that page. But like any of those templates as student pages, they're really what we think are best examples. It's always better to adapt them to your class, to the size of your class and how you're using them. That's also true for these Google apps. You can use my template, but you can adapt it to your audience. This one was designed for a group of 30 people playing, right? But it certainly would work for 8 people too. Any questions about this part before I go on?
Barb said a cool addition would be for students to add their modes of use / transportation, food, technology, etc.
Yes, which actually brings us to, good segue here, to the, as we close the activity, well, actually, I didn't, the segue I was looking for was on the slide I just left, and there it is. At the bottom of the slide is 20 years from today. What do you see yourself doing 20 years from today? You know, in how are you going to school? How are you getting there? How are you using water? What does that look like? And energy use. How is the food you're eating different than it is today, right? And so we start off by typing in phrases or sentences to describe that. Like under transportation, for example, you might type in, you know, my jetpack, or you might type in, you know, I had to walk because that's the best kind of transportation I have 20 years from today, right? If you're more pessimistic. So looking 20 years ahead is your chance to do that, like to say, this is what I think is in store for me, and or you could do it for today. And then from there, challenge students to write their own story, right, of their life in a day 20 years from today. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. Find the right tab. What is sustainability? So one thing I didn't do earlier, I was supposed to, and that is is when we started, before we read the profiles, to give you all a chance to write your definition of sustainability. And then after we read those profiles, maybe you want to revise those and expand upon them or edit them, right? And then we look at various definitions of sustainability, and sustainability is hard to define because we all have different ideas about what it is we're talking about that maybe should be sustained. Are we talking about our own lifestyle? Are we talking about a certain lifestyle that most people should have? Are we talking about an amount of energy that should be shared throughout the world, or a certain population of the world with a certain amount of shared resources? What is it that we're trying to sustain, right? And this is really the heart of why it's really hard to define and agree upon what is sustainable. And so here's some ideas. And from Merriam-Webster, using resources so the resource is not depleted or permanently damaged. From the United Nations, and this is for sustainable development, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And from Project Wild, where we're talking about carrying capacity, and we define sustainable living, okay, as humans living within the carrying capacity of the ecosystem they inhabit. An ecosystem's carrying capacity is the maximum number of inhabitants that can be supported in an environment without degradation or loss of essential natural resources, such as food, water, and shelter. Ooh, that was a long one. And so here's some key words to help me remember them: wise use, planning ahead, and living within our means. And here's one from the Sustainability Academy in Lawrence, at Lawrence Barnes in Burlington, Vermont. Painted on the side, a quote by Matthew Fox: "Sustainability is another word for justice. For what is just is sustainable, and what is unjust is not." Okay, so maybe sustainability has to do with justice. If our systems are not just, are they really sustainable? And can we sustain something that's not just? All right, and from that same school, or an organization that school is part of, the Sustainability School Project, here's some of their big ideas for sustainability. With a quote from a student: "It means doing more good than harm with the people around us and the stuff we have." Okay, so there's a bunch of different ideas about what sustainability is. What's your idea about sustainability? Okay, so I'd love to see those. We're out of time, but this activity, the part B will walks the participants through that mental exercise of articulating what sustainability is. All right, here's your homework. Your homework is within the next 4 days, email me a photo, and you might recognize this, a similar homework from the last Wild Learning Lab. But this time I'm actually going to have a prize, and it's going to be a book that I'll mail you. If you do this, I'll put your name in a raffle, and Kelly, you'll be my witness, Kelly Reynolds, of that raffle being fair. I'll pull your name out of a hat, maybe, if you enter, and you may win the book titled, darn it, I was going to hold it up, but it's titled "Saving the World Starts at Breakfast," right? And it's an argument for how our diets relate to being more sustainable. Okay, so the homework challenge is email me a photo that's taken in your neighborhood. It captures both wildlife habitat and development, that is human-made buildings, landscape, roads, infrastructure, etc. In the photo, it should show your face, and it should demonstrate, and your face might be covered up with sunglasses or with a mask, right? And it demonstrates responsible recreation and safe learning. And I'll mention what that is in just a moment. You'll include in your email a sentence or two explaining, in your opinion, the potential long-term effect of the development on wildlife. So in this example, here's in the background an urban scape. in the foreground, you know, the person taking the picture with perhaps a park or a grassy field. How would this affect wildlife in the long term? Well, you know, some species that are very adapted to urban environments might do well here, right? There might be some crickets in the field, or pill bugs, or there might be starlings or sparrows or pigeons, or perhaps peregrine falcons that are supported in this environment. And there's much we could say about how the habitat would be altered for many, many other species of wildlife as well. Okay, send your message to me. There's my email address, mlefebvre, L-E-F-E-B-R-E, at fishwildlife.org by September 9th, and maybe win that prize. Okay. And responsible recreation, plan ahead, stay close to home, best practices for avoiding COVID-19, so social distancing, right? Wearing a mask, washing your hands, among others. If you're going to state parks or national parks or lands, public lands, follow your state and federal guidelines, pack out your trash, and share your adventures respectfully on social outlets. Stay safe and stay wild. I'll be on for a few more minutes if you want to talk, and I hope to see you at the next Wild Learning Lab. Thank you all. And I'm going to stop recording now.